Morning, gentlemen. This morning we're going to make a bridal rig for a planer rod. We're just going to take a quick look at the items that I use to get started with here that make life just much easier. First, we need some hollow core spectra. Ordered this from BHP Tackle. They make smaller, or they sell smaller amounts of it. This is 100 yards to 200 pound. I know some people's going to want to use larger. More power to you. This is what I ordered. This is what I'm going to use up until it's gone. I haven't had any issues with it yet. Going to need some Zap-It glue. That's just to seal up the serving after we get it served. This is my serving bobbit. It just has power floss on it. Got a Sharpie marker so that I can mark the length that I need my bridle to be. Got a somewhat sharp knife here to cut my braid with. And I have a set of Deho needles here for splicing. You know, this is the best money you can spend if you're going to be messing with the braid stuff. They're kind of expensive. I think they're about 80 bucks for a set, but they are very hard to get around doing this stuff without a set of needles. I know that a lot of people used a reverse latch needle on this, but I prefer myself the needle here with just a little metal loop on the back of it. Seems to work real fine for me for making the bridal rigs, and that's what I like to use. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see if we can get started on making one of these rigs up. Add a tape measure to items that you need. So I'm just going to take my Sharpie here. I'm just going to measure me out a 30-inch mark. Sounds about right to me. It's not rocket science, just make it. Alright, I'm going to cut me 2 pieces of braid, 30 inches long. Cut me another piece of braid, 30 inches long. Alright, this is what's going to be used to make my 2 loops with. Clear all this stuff out of the way here. I'm just going to take my round latch needle here. I'm going to fold this over about double. I'm going to run it up in there about that far. And so I want to start right about here somewhere and go in with my latch. All I'm doing is bunching that up, getting my latch needle started up in it. Push that up on there. If you can see a close-up of that or not right there. Then I'm just going to loop this back through here and fold it over. The great thing about not using that latch needle is if you use that latch needle, it'll get bunched up right there, and if your needle ever goes backwards, it gets locked, gets tangled up into threads. Okay, I'm just going to pull that all the way out, pop that out, and then make my loop the size that I want it back here in the back. And that's about the size loop that I want. I just pull that up, and that, my friends, is one side already made. So we're just going to do the same thing this time. We're just going to mark it right off of that one with the Sharpie here. Then we're going to bunch that up again. Find out where I laid my needle here. Stuff's kind of hard to see down on the table. All I'm doing in there is just bunching that up a little bit, getting my needle started up in there. Once you get started, it rolls right along pretty daggone well. Make sure I'm on the right one. Just push that up in there. Stick that through my latch, or not my latch, but my loop there. Just bunch that all up on there. Just make sure you don't close all that up or you'll pull it back inside. No big deal, you just have to start over again. pull that down to the size loop I want, and then stretch that back out. Okay. Then we have 2 loops there the size we want. And this one here is a little bit smaller, so all I got to do is just pull it back out a little bit to make that. And if you notice here that this only goes up into it about that far, so that's just one layer there, and we'll use that to stick back through our needle again so we can pull it up inside of the other piece. Okay? And that, my friend, is a look at the 2 loops. This is what your planer is going to attach to. We're going to go with 30 inches. This is what's going to be braided up into your existing line on your reel. Okay, and then we're going to leave another 30 inches to make the bridle itself in. Okay, and then we're going to leave another 30 inches. This is what your monofilament top shot's going to go in on this end. And then I like to have a little room in between mine. So I'm going to add another 30 inches so that I can have some separation in between those. Alright? We're just going to take the old knife here and cut that. Seems to work pretty decent. Okay? Then we're going to put our bridle right dead center in the middle. So all I'm going to do is just take the ends there and hold those together. Mark the center of my line. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just got to be close. I just have that mark right there in the center. I know that my bridle needs to be 16 inches between the loops. So I'm just going to open up my tape measure to where 16 inches is showing. Put 8 inches in the center. And then I'm going to mark the end here at 8 and 16. This is not rocket science. All you need is your bridle. If your bridle has 16 inches between it, your planer needs to be like 18 or something, just enough so that it'll trip but it's not hanging real loose. That way you're fighting the fish on your main line and you're not fighting the fish on the planer itself. Then when it comes up, the planer will just be hanging there loose and you can just unsnap it. Okay? So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one of those loops out that I made. Right? This is my starting point. Right here. We can just transfer that mark all the way around to the other side just in case we need it over there. Go ahead and do the same on this end. Put the mark on the other side also. Okay? Then I'm going to lay my loop down. My loop's going to be right there when I get it served in there. And then I'm just going to mark this end. Okay? So I know I need to run my needle up to like right here and pop it out. Alright, so we're just going to do the same thing. This time we're going to start right there on our first mark. Insert our needle. Start it going through there. And then we're just going to stick our loop that we made earlier. And we're just going to stick it in there about that far. That should hold it fine. Okay. We're going to run that up. If you pop out to the side, no worries. It just happens. Going to run that up to the second mark. Pop it out. Pull that through and take it out. That's all it is to it. Then we're going to pull our loop up to the beginning of the loop up to that mark we had. Once we get it there, we know that's where we want to be. We'll go ahead and pull that, and our loop should have disappeared inside of that, and it didn't. So we're no worries here. Just pull that back. Try it again up in there. We're just a little bit off. We're just going to pull that back. Take our ultra sharp knife here. Cut that off. And we're going to pull our loop. Got stretched out just a little bit there. We're just going to pull that back. Bam. Now, that's inside of the loop there, and we have one loop hanging off. Now we're going to do the exact same opposite, but just do it on the other end. We're going to switch our cable around because that's the way that my old hands operate real good in that direction. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to get our other loop over here that we made earlier, line it up with our two marks there. We're not going to worry about making that other mark this time. We're just going to go on out there about 3 inches past it so that we know it goes up in there. Go back here, open the loop up, get our needle going up in there. Get us a good amount on there. Stick our loop that we made before. We're going to stick that on there. Get us some covering it up so it don't fall out. Then we're going to run that on up to our mark. Once we get to our mark, we'll just pop the needle out. And we're just going to pull that back again to our beginning right there. Maybe a little bit further. Not overly difficult here to do. And if you see that tag in, yep, didn't go back up in there quite again. All I'm doing is just squeezing that extra up there. No problem. Pop that out. I'm going to cut off a little bit of it. That went up inside of it and disappeared very nicely. You see what you end up with is that loop hanging out and that loop hanging out with some distance in between them. Alright, next step is to serve these two bad boys up.